All right, let's kick it off. What is today? Tuesday? Welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon to what is our Glass Recycling Coalition Spring Member Meeting. We'll go ahead and kick it off. So if we want to flick to the next slide. I'll take you guys through the agenda. So we'll go through the traditional welcome antitrust statement, welcome our new members. We will go through a poll. We have an educational panel set up for the bulk of the meeting today, an update on the MRF certification. We'll do a GRF update, and then any updates from member coalition, and then we'll end in 2 hours. So 2 p.m. for some of you, 12 p.m. for some of us. And with that, can we go into I think we have the antitrust statement. So I'll go ahead and read this out loud. This is our antitrust statement. But basically all participants are not to discuss non-public company-specific information relating to present or future competition in the marketplace. Discussion of any of the following is improper and should not and is not permitted. So any pricing, company-specific costs, profits, individual customers or competitors, business or strategic plans, or any R&D discussions. So if anybody feels that we wandered into a potentially dangerous territory, please speak up and say something so we can ensure that we're following these rules. And again, just a big welcome from the GRC leadership team. I'll go ahead and kick off with an introduction to myself. That picture up there is super outdated, but my name is Sarah Barr, and I am from Gallo Glass. I've been on the GRC leadership team for, I don't know, 7 years, I think, when Rich tapped my shoulder. And I'll hand it over to Mike. Is Mike on?
Yeah, hi, Sarah. I'll also comment on my picture. We got our money back on that one, so don't worry, guys. I'm Mike Melby, VP of Operations with Balcones Recycling. We're based out of Austin, Texas, and I've been in the recycling industry since 2008, with Balcones since 2012, and active with the GRC since 2022. And looking forward to hearing y'all on the meeting.
Bob, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Bob Whitbird. I'm the Sustainability Strategy Leader for OI. Been on the board now for the Leadership Committee for about 2 years. And, recycling space for pretty much my whole career, which will be about 25 years next week.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob. Lydia, do you want to go next?
Sure. Lydia Gibson with SMI, originally out of the Ripple Glass team, been kicking around since 2017 and was joined the leadership committee about a year ago. I think it's been about that long. I'm happy to be on the call today to share with you some great information and give you all some great updates.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lydia. And Garrett from Diageo.
Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm Garrett. I'm Sustainability Packaging Manager at Diageo, helping track the company's sustainability metrics. Prior to this, I was a pack engineer with the company, mainly focusing on high retail whiskey and sustainability programs. I have about 10 years of CPG experience. And prior to Diageo, I was in the cosmetics industry and relatively new to the GRC, so I'm looking forward to what's to come.
Thanks, Garrett. And is Scott on, Sarah?
He may not be on yet.
Okay, well, I think Scott's going to join us later in the call, but Scott DeFife is from GPI and has been a member of the GRC leadership team for 4 years now, I think. But he can introduce, I think everybody on this call probably already knows Scott. And then, of course, we have Sarah and Morgan from RRS. Sarah, do you want to say hi?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for coming to the spring membership meeting. Really excited to to share this exciting educational program with y'all. Like Sarah said, I'm Sarah Nichols. I am a consultant with RRS, and you probably hear from myself and Morgan a lot. We are the operational management folks kind of behind the scenes with GRC. So trying to make sure everything runs as smoothly as possible for the group that is made up of entirely volunteers.
Thanks, Sarah. And Morgan, do you want to pop on and say hi too?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here with you today. I'm an analyst at RRS, and I support Sarah and the leadership team with everything GRC related.
Thanks, Morgan. And I'd like to invite everybody on the call right now, if you want to just get into the chat, introduce yourself quickly if you're new, or just want to say hi, or if you've been out of commission for a while and are back online with the GRC, just feel free to pop into that chat box and say hello. All right. Did the slide move or?
No, not yet. I was gonna wait for people to
Oh, okay.
the chat. There is a hand raised.
Is that Dan Dominowski raising his hand?
It is.
Good morning from Dan Dominowski at Potential Industries. We're a new member. We're a recycling company, privately held in Southern California. We have 5 locations. I've been here for 30 years, and it's a pleasure to be part of your group.
Welcome, Dan. Nice to see you.
All right, we've got Milson Coors, Pat Grasso with Urban Mining, Marta, Illinois. Brandon, this is maybe a good time to go to the next.
Yeah. So Brandon,
slide.
that was great timing. We'd like to welcome our new members that have joined us. Brandon's actually from Recycle Services, if I'm saying that all correctly. Brandon, do you want to actually unmute yourself and say hi quickly? You're more than welcome to, and do a quick introduction of your company.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. So we're Recycle Services, and my name's Brandon Stanley. We're a small company based out of Toledo, Ohio. We also have a location in Nashville, Tennessee. And so we're just so excited to be joining. There's so many great people in this group. We're excited to learn and potentially contribute where we can.
Thanks, Brandon. I appreciate that. Sorry to put you on the spot like that as well. But so happy to have you join us today. And then we also have one other new member that's on the call, Tony with Agriplex. I don't know if he's actually on the call, but we'd like to welcome them as well. Tony, if you're on, feel free to unmute yourself and say hi to the group.
Good morning or good afternoon. I appreciate the invitation and look forward to working with you guys. Learning.
This meeting is being recorded.
Thanks, Tony. And Dan, thank you for popping on earlier. I'm sorry we missed introducing you as a new member. We should have had Potential on this slide as well. So, but we want to welcome Dan and Potential as new members to the GRC also.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. I think they got in at the end of 2023. So that was just a kind of logistical cutoff, I guess. So hi, Dan, and everyone else.
Okay. And with that, so just wanted to give everybody a little insight to the activity that's been going on recently with industry events, different activities that the GRC leadership has been involved in. So we had the National Recycling Coalition that several members, including Pat DeGrasso and Laura Henneman, spoke at. Most recently was Waste Expo. So what was that, 2 weeks ago now? God, it feels like it was 3 months ago already. But Laura was that as well, as was Scott. We had, it sounds like it was a really good, positive discussion during the panel that was held that Monday. And then we also have the Georgia Recycling Coalition event that Scott presented out on, and I was not in attendance on that. But Sarah, do you have any other feedback on that particular
Yeah,
event?
that actually just took place this morning. It was hosted by the Georgia Recycling Coalition. So obviously a focus on Georgia programs. Scott started out by giving kind of state of glass recycling in the US talk. And then Laura with SMI talked about Georgia recycling specifically and in markets in Georgia. And then there were also speakers who represented commercial recycling. There was a local government talking about their drop-off program, and then an in-market as well. So a really great educational session that took place this morning, and the GRC just helped co-host it and helped with content and all of those fun things. So really exciting to have some great industry engagement from the so far this year. That was something that the members did want to see more of.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, you led right into the plug I was going to give with, you know, we've had 3 events that we've participated in. We'll see some of the same faces in those pictures, and we'd like to see more faces at more events, being that this is a member-led coalition. So any engagement, if you know of events in your area, please, you know, publicize them to us, but also, you know that we have support to provide if you want to be on a panel or need some guidance or need some additional information so you can present out. Or if there's something you're interested in participating in, reach out to one of us and we can help ensure that we set that up so we can make sure that glass has a high profile and a good positive story behind it. And that's going to come from our organization, and any support we can get from the broad membership base would be greatly appreciated. So a little bit leading into that, we're already planning our fall in-person meeting, and we're taking the kind of a similar approach as we did last October, which was piggybacking off of GPI's meeting. This time it will be in Central California. The location is Lodi, and it would be on October 2nd through 3rd. And basically, we'd love to have some support in setting up the agenda. This meeting is for members. So what do you want to hear about? What kind of breakout panels and topics do you want to know about, or have us, you know, craft an agenda around? So the poll is it live already?
Morgan, how do I make this live? It says that it should be live and
Yeah, if you go towards the bottom, Sarah, and hover kind of where it says start. Are you in a PDF version or is this live? Otherwise, I can put it in the chat too. It's just a link.
On PowerPoint. Yeah, if you want to put it in the chat, I'm not sure.
Okay, so we've got the poll link in the chat. So if you are able to get on to that link and send through some responses, so we have, you know, somewhere to start as we craft the agenda in the coming months. We want to make sure that we're covering off the topics that are important to you guys. I will say with the meeting in Lodi, we're trying to find a site where we can actually host it at either a local winery or an olive oil plant that uses glass, and then hopefully also include tours of a glass recycling facility and glass packaging plant in Modesto. Some of you might have heard of it, Gal Glass and Halo. So that'll be pretty exciting. And I don't know if we can actually show the results of the poll if you're in that view, Sarah.
Let's see. I may have to go to the actual. I'm showing no poll results yet. Have people inputted their information yet?
Yeah, they're coming in. I can also
Oh,
show
All
Sarah
right,
if you
I'm
want.
gonna let Morgan do this because my
Yeah, Morgan, will you share? So we can see.
my computer does not want to do that.
Okay. So facilities, costs, MRFs, GPI beneficiation. So for MRFs, is that going to see a MRF or is that pulling MRFs into?
Yeah, Morgan, is there a way to, I imagine people are
It's
putting
kind of hard to-
one word, I don't know, but is there a way to see their whole?
We might have to send out like a
Mhm.
follow-up poll at the end of this meeting. So it sounds like MRF, things around MRFs.
We can do that.
I'd like to know what specifically around MRFs. Is it MRF cleanup? Is it MRF contamination? Like what do we want to talk about? I think that's
Yeah.
regulations,
And you all can also put things in the chat if you want to expand on any of your
outreach,
answers.
collection, okay, MRF certifications. Okay, Sarah. So I think maybe we can consolidate some of this at the end, the next time we meet, and try to sift through it and then send it back out to the membership and see if it jives with what everybody was
Yeah, that sounds good.
thinking. Okay, awesome, guys. Thanks for the participation.
Yeah.
With that, I'm over my time limit because I just had so much joy in sharing everything. So I'm going to turn it over to Bob for the educational panel.
Thanks, Sarah. Good afternoon, good morning, everybody. We are going to jump right on into our panel discussion today. We've got 4 panelists that are going to talk about various initiatives throughout the country. We're going to start off with Mike Melby, who's the VP of Alconi's Recycling. Mike, if you want to kick us off.
And Mike, I'm not sure if you have slides or if you're just gonna chat.
Yeah, I have some slides.
All right, you can take over sharing.
I will try. I'm not a Zoom wizard, so let me know if you'll see the slides.
And as Mike's
Yep.
bringing them up, I guess the one thing I'd ask is let's hold questions to the end. So we're going to go through all 4 panelists. If you have questions during, capture them during the call, and then if you want to throw them in the chat box with, who you'd like to have answer that, I will attempt to go through those questions at the end of the 4 presentations. With that, back over to you, Mike.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob. Not going to go into a huge introduction for myself because we already got it once. I'm with Balcones Recycling. We're going to discuss trends in municipal contracting for glass and how it relates to the MRF industry. A little bit about Balcones. Recycling is the core of our business. It's all we do. We're one of the largest independent recyclers in the U.S. We're a pure play recycler. We do not own any landfills. We do not have any contracts to haul municipal waste. Any waste that we do haul is a byproduct of our process. We are trying to divert material to the recycling stream away from the waste stream, and inevitably that means there's some residual material left that is non-recyclable. We've been in business for over 30 years. Started as a small little company in Austin, Texas, and grown to says 11 locations on here, but this slide is a little bit outdated because we've recently acquired Midwest Fibers, based out of Normal, Illinois, Bloomington, Illinois. So we've added 6 more locations, so 17 locations, and we market over 1 million tons of material per year. Balcones difference, people is the difference. We attract talent that aligns with our values, and that's really where it is. We are as good as our people, and we firmly believe that. We also believe in advancing the recycling industry through staying on the cutting edge of technology. We have some of the most advanced facilities in the world, and arguably we'll have the best or the most advanced facility opening up next month in San Antonio, Texas. So we're pretty excited about that. And then we're mission driven. We want to forward the recycling industry for the industry, not just for ourselves. So we do a lot of outreach, education, and community impact. Slide here that really resonates with what we feel as a business is one man's trash is another man's treasure, from everybody's favorite Oscar the Grouch. So let's jump into talking about trends in municipal RFPs. Some glass has gotten a bad rap over the years in the recycling industry, especially the single stream industry, because of the ability to handle that in a MRF or lack thereof, and inability for companies or lack of desire to invest in the equipment to process that efficiently. And glass was a contaminant to every other commodity in the MRF. So because of that, there was a trend where many municipalities were coming out with RFPs that did not include glass as part of their program. Positive news is like almost all of the RFPs we've seen come out in the last 5 years have included glass. The only one that that did not have that was specifically due to transfer costs from their collection point to the MRF. They did not want to pay to transport the glass to the MRF. Instead, they went on a community collection program. They have community drop off. So that's a very positive trend that we're seeing from 5 years ago. It's definitely shifting, and we'll hear a little bit more later on from the city of Little Rock about what they've done to reintroduce glass into their stream. That's really positive. Outside of it just being mandated as part of the stream, there's a lot of discretion given to the RFP respondents of what they want to do with the glass. There's not defined standards of recovery for glass, not defined quality standards in most of these RFPs for glass. It's just get it out. It's bundled in with the rest of the commodities that are traded and collected. Another trend I want to talk about is pricing. Really, before 2019, the trend we were seeing is pricing was being driven back towards an index, which doesn't really reflect market conditions in many markets because it's not accounting for the variables outside of just what the 3 mix is being purchased for. You have a lot of transportation costs, and then you have operating costs at the facility that aren't being reflected in that pricing. So the trend we're seeing now, a lot of municipalities are recognizing that, and instead of going towards an index, they're going to a percent of actual cost, whether that be a positive value or a negative value. They understand that it is market specific, and indexes don't do a good job of representing actual costs of what it takes to recycle a material and sell it. Again, there's heavy emphasis put on marketing plans for all commodities, and that includes glass. Price is by far the primary driver in these discussions. There are conversations about we want to keep as much of the commodities in the local market as we can, and that makes sense from a transportation aspect for glass. But not every market has a beneficiation facility to send it to in that municipality. So there's like good examples, our Austin facility. We're having to ship our glass either to Houston or to the Dallas-Fort Worth market. It's 120 to 160 mile trip to get our glass recycled. We'd love to have a beneficiation facility closer to deal with that. It just doesn't exist. So again, I just kind of went into the end markets. There's not a state of recovery goal. It's bundled in with all commodities. The other thing is end markets are not really considered in RFPs. That's something that is given discretion to the respondent of the RFP, the operator. If you are altruistic and you want to keep it in the reuse cycle, that's our mission as a company. There's many others that see value in turning glass into aggregate or other end of life products, and that is still better than landfilling it, but we would prefer as an industry to see it turned into a circular product that can continue to be recycled over and over and over again. Glass is one of the few commodities that can be recycled infinitely if done correctly. So there's no reason not to, other than cost. So pivot a little bit into trends in our existing municipal contracts. So I'm not going to call out any of these municipalities by name just because I don't want to alienate them. But overall, we have seen a trend towards decreasing percent of glass in the recycling stream. There's a lot of variables that go into that, but you can see this municipality, we started just under 30% glass content, and we've trended down to it's 18.5% now, which is a huge drop off. There's a lot of variables that go into that. One is packaging industry is transitioning a lot to plastic or aluminum. Another big contributing factor, specifically in this municipality, is the trend towards craft breweries, craft beer, and the craft beer industry has predominantly gone with aluminum cans versus glass bottles. So we've seen a big drop off in this municipality here. Municipality B is from one of our Florida markets. And you can see there's huge spikes between the spring and the fall, or I should say the first half of the year and the second half of the year from 2020 until now. You can see that that's correlates to spring break is really the driver there. Spring break versus not spring break. We get a lot of glass during spring break, but you can still see it's trending down, just not as great of a rate as the first municipality was. The other thing that we've identified in this municipality with collaboration through the municipality is that there's less glass making it into the bin than there was when we started this contract. They've done waste audits at the landfill and seen the increase in glass content at the landfill. So that's an initiative that they're working on right now, is to get that back into the bin to get back to the recycling facility. And then again, another municipality with less history, but you can see it's trending downward overall as a percentage of composition of inbound material stream. And this one, we haven't really identified the reason why. It's just trending down. This municipality is less engaged with their program than the other two municipalities were. So one of the missions we have is to increase glass recovery within our MRFs. We want to get as much glass out of or recover as much glass out of the stream as we can for a few reasons. One, it's our mission. Anything we throw away is money we don't make. And then it's also good for the environment. So what are the variables that make it challenging to increase recovery in a MRF? Is the first one is capital expenditure. Glass separating equipment in a MRF is expensive. It's relatively equivalent to the cost of other equipment that we would buy to separate containers or fiber. That combined with the value of the 3-mix out of the MRF is significantly lower than the other commodities. We're looking at sub $20 a ton range for the best that we're getting out of our 3-mix. When you look at that compared to OCC or containers, we're looking at $70 to $120. So it really makes it challenging to justify spending capital on glass cleaning equipment when there's limited capital. Unfortunately, we don't live in the world of unlimited money, so we have to make decisions of where's the most impact financially, and many times glass loses out. That's combined with pricing. There is an increase in three mix value when we recover more and we do a better job of cleaning it, but it doesn't correlate to the increased cost. So what that really means is that we need help to increase glass recovery from municipalities that we deal with and the third-party haulers that we deal with. And what does that look like? It means increased cost to their users or decreasing their margin on what they're going to get if they're a third-party hauler. And that's a very hard conversation to have with the stakeholders, primarily the citizens in the community. Everybody loves recycling, but nobody wants to pay for it. So when you go talk about increasing costs, it really is a hard pill to swallow for most of these municipalities. What we will see is municipalities that have aggressive diversion goals or zero waste initiatives, they are much more apt to participate in cost sharing on that. Ideally, we would be able to make it a zero impact to them, but unfortunately, we haven't found that to be the case yet. The third factor that really makes it challenging to recover more glass in a MRF is maintenance. Glass is the most abrasive material that we put into a MRF. It's essentially, I mean, it's silica, so you're hitting metal with sand. You're sandblasting your equipment. It wears down really quickly. It wears out. Conveyor belts fast. If you don't extract it from the stream early enough, it'll damage other or increase the wear on other pieces of equipment in the MRF. So it's a very big incentive to get it out early, but that is challenging because you get glass mixed in. People will put it inside a cardboard box and it ends up carrying over the glass breaker and getting separated further down the line. The other challenge with maintenance is new glass equipment. It's both more technologically advanced, and there are more wear components, more moving pieces. You'll add an eddy current. You'll add a magnet somewhere in the stream, whereas before it was primarily you take it to a glass breaker and then you use air to separate it. And even you look at the trends towards air separation that the MRF manufacturers are providing, and that is still air separation, but they've added drum magnets in there. They've added drums to separate the lights and heavies along with the air classification. And that's increasing the wear components. You're increasing maintenance costs. And then the third one is the processing equipment's more sensitive to environmental changes. You're dealing with more air separation, and air density changes with temperature. So you really need to stay on top of adjusting your glass separation equipment to make sure you're extracting the most out of it. And that takes a different type of technician than the traditional MRF maintenance technician you have. We have a technician that is a great guy, great technician, but his favorite tool is the hammer. The hammer doesn't work with our newer equipment that we're buying, so he's having to adapt to that, and unfortunately some of it is exceeding his capabilities, and we have to be cognizant of that with our current staff when we're making improvements. So all of those combined make it hard for us to increase glass recovery in a MRF. And I mean, that is a goal of all of our municipal partners. They want to increase recovery of all of the commodities that are in their program, but glass is pretty challenging for that, for these reasons here. But it's not undoable. We can definitely do it. It just takes a strong relationship and shared benefit and shared costs. So, yeah, so overall, I see positive momentum in the municipal space when it comes to glass. There's a lot of interest. It's as far as percentage of commodity stream, it's disproportionately low compared to the amount of attention that fiber, metal, and containers get. But that is changing. That conversation is changing, and the other thing that is changing is there's with increased recovery and quality in a MRF, we're starting to see new markets come online where 10 years ago the 3-mix was just too dirty to feed to some of these end markets, and now we're changing that conversation to be able to add new outlets to it, which is ultimately going to benefit the municipalities that we serve as a company and the citizens that live within this, along with the entire glass recycling industry. So we're heading in the right direction as far as municipal contracting and what they can provide for us and what we can provide for them. So that's really all I have.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. Our next participant on the education panel is Melissa Pennant, coming from the city of Fairfax. Melissa is an environmental sustainability specialist with the city of Fairfax, where she plays a pivotal role in shaping sustainable practices in the community. With her master's degree in sustainable urban planning, she brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise to her position, particularly in the realm of solid waste planning and program implementation. Throughout her career, Melissa has been dedicated to fostering environmentally responsible practices and driving positive change at the local level. She's passionate about finding innovative solutions to waste management challenges and is committed to promoting sustainable living within urban environments. With that, Melissa.
Hi, everyone. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes, you sound good.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Robert, for the introduction. I feel like it's a great presentation to follow up with Mike's protocol because of all the challenges you just talked about, we're trying to fix them. So in Northern Virginia, you can see the photo here. We are actively trying to tackle glass as a commodity by removing it from our single stream and opting for a sole source drop-off program that we have dubbed the Purple Can Tip. And I was excited to hear that somebody from Purple Glass, formerly Purple Glass, was up to call because this was modeled after their program. Taking it with Purple Can.
Hey, Melissa, I don't know if anybody else is having a hard time hearing you. You're a little spotty for me. Might want to try turning off your camera, potentially.
Try that. Any better?
We'll see.
I'll see. All right. So here are just some photos of our Purple Can Club program. So these are 30-yard dumpsters that we have placed all over Northern Virginia, which includes Fairfax County, City of Fairfax, Arlington County, City of Alexandria, Prince William County, Loudoun County, Town of Herndon, Town of Vienna, City of Falls Church. I'm definitely missing a few, but there's about a dozen or so municipalities all across Northern Virginia who have opted to do glass and single stream recycling as a region to help with continuity of messaging as well as programming. We hear it a lot that a lot of our neighboring jurisdictions have different lists of acceptable materials, and we have decided to go at this regionally as a way to combine our efforts, combine our outreach, and stay similar. A lot of our neighbors don't know what jurisdiction they actually live in. Our municipal borders are quite vague at times, but going through this as a regional model, we've really seen a great success in removing glass from single stream recycling. Tagline, as you can see here, is recycle your clean, empty, and dry glass because we're crushing it. The next slide, please. A brief background on our program. As Mike mentioned earlier, we've had all the same challenges with glass in our single stream recycling. In the state of Virginia, glass can be used as landfill cover, which was a major problem for a lot of us. As you guys all know, glass is the most recyclable material and can be recycled endlessly. So why was it being buried? That was put through single stream recycling, ended up being highly contaminated in its 3-mix, 2-mix, depending on the bird. And it was ultimately used as landfill cover as the cheapest option to recycle it. Air quote recycling in the campus zone. So as a region, we decided to pull glass and we launched the glass only drop off program and club. And it started out small. We started out with a few containers throughout all of Northern Virginia. And we are slowly trickling down to the Eastern Shore as well, including areas like Stafford, Hampton Roads, communities, et cetera. So we're gradually spreading the Purple Can Club momentum and pulling from the class from sample to print site. So since about 2019, we have pulled it from the official list of accepted materials in our curbside recycling program. And it has been running pretty successfully ever since. And the city of Fairfax has been fortunate enough in 2023 to win a small grant from the Glass Recycling Foundation to further support this program. Next slide, please. I'm just giving you kind of a map of all the Purple Can locations throughout Northern Virginia. This is only some of them. I did not fit all of them on a nice picture for you guys, but most of our purple containers are at existing drop-off locations for municipal waste. They are at city libraries. They are at county buildings and facilities. They are at our park and ride stations. They are all over the place. Wherever we could fit a 30-ton roll-on container, we did. And there's still demand for it. Some of these locations have multiple containers. One in the city of Fairfax that I personally manage. We only have one. Our city is 6.4 square miles. It doesn't matter that we only have one in the city because there are so many options for our residents to go to, whether it be on their way to work, while they're running errands, etc. We really made an option to go everywhere to recycle your glass and recycle it properly. Next slide, please. So a little bit about the grant that we run. We run a $5,000 matching grant from the GRF, and we purchase these very stylish tote bags to help bring glass to and from the purple bins. One of the main reasons we heard people did not want to take glass is because of this inconvenience. The drop-off centers are out of the way. All of the current problems we face with getting people to drop off anything properly. We decided to make it a stylish way to do it. So we worked with our local high school students. They actually have a glass recycling club at our local high school. They help elderly neighbors and people without cars to bring their glass to and from the purple bins with them. So these are students who are volunteering their time to help recycle glass and help recover glass as mainly because they want to and because they also know the challenges we're facing in the recycling industry and they want to do their part. So big shout out to that club and the GRF for the grant because we were able to purchase 10,000 of these bags. And I selfishly kept a few hundred for myself to save for emergency purposes, but they went out they were gone in less than 4 months. They were so popular. Definitely looking to expand the program as well and purchase more bags to help bring more glass to and from. So a little bit about how we advertise and educate the public on these programs. It's really a massive effort and it's repetitive, it's constant, it's colorful. I'm probably the most annoying person in the city of Fairfax because I will constantly tell people they are recycling things wrong. And I try to educate them on how to do it properly. So we use various different mediums, including print, social, plus advertisements. I have everywhere and anywhere that I can put a purple logo for recycling glass, I have done so. So it's been featured. It's been featured on our 2023 out to all of our residents. It's on social media about once a month or so. There's a glass recycling post of sorts. It's in all of our buses. We always encourage, especially residents who don't have vehicles to get to and from drop-off stations to use one of our city bus programs, which are free for the public to use. We've done mail postcards. We've done flyers from the schools. If you can think of it, I've probably done it in terms of print outreach and social outreach, just to constantly get the message out there that glass is no longer allowed in single-stream recycling. One of the main challenges we have in North Virginia is we are a very transient area. We have a lot of residents who live there for life, but we have a lot of residents who after 2 years, they move somewhere else. So it's a constant upkeep with advertisements and it's a lot of work, but it's one of the most effective ways. Next, please. Thing we do is public outreach events. That's me in that photo. You can see the glass bag there. At one of our public events. This was for our city flea markets. We've also gone to civic homeowner associations and civic associations and personally sat down with them and had them answer all of their trash recycling related questions because it can be confusing. And we do hear constantly that what's recyclable in the city of Fairfax is not necessarily recyclable in other places, mainly because we have different MRFs that we all go to. So our list of accepted materials varies slightly. So dedicating the time, and it is quite a bit of time, to sit down and talk with residents about all these questions and concerns they're having is another great way to build trust with our community, and that we are actually recycling the glass that we accept. It is a very high quality glass because it is only glass, it's so separated. So we're able to kind of bridge that barrier and kind of break down the initial shock when we pull glass, because glass is very recyclable. People use that from glass since the 70s. So pulling it for the first time was a little bit of shock and awe in that program. So we're giving it right back to them by being at all these events and showing up and answering questions. Next slide. One of our big outreach things was for the multi-family. This is an area that has historically been neglected in terms of outreach. Transient population, they have different ways they manage their trash and recycling. So we work with the multifamily apartments and condo buildings and their managers, their HOA presidents, to add a glass recycling tote bag in all of their trash rooms if they want it. And we provide them with a poster either in English or in multiple languages to encourage residents to separate glass in their own trash rooms. I don't have a picture of the glass bag in a trash room because I didn't think about it until I was doing this presentation, but here's kind of the idea of like a trash room with separate recycling and a trash chute. And they would have a glass recycling tote bag by the brand to help us sole source out the glass from multi-family buildings. And again, we have a lot of high school students, a lot of dedicated volunteers and residents who are willingly taking the glass from these communal drop-off centers in the building to the purple bin as a way to be sustainable and to do their part for the environment. So it's been a big program, a very healthy program, and it's one of the ways we are targeting our historically underprovided populations in this. Show you guys prior in the year 2023, we recycled in our one purple bins only for the city of Fairfax. We had one container. We had just over 250 tons of glass. And since we got the grant from the GRC, we've seen a 46% increase. And we are expecting in 2024 to have over 320 tons of glass and sole source. This is just for the city of Fairfax. We only have one container in our specific jurisdiction. So kind of take this number and times it by about 70 for our 70 events that we have out and about. And it really is a huge effort that we are so proud of as a way to recycle glass and save glass from ultimately being buried. That's it for us, short and sweet. That is my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions via email or call me around answering them.
Thanks, Melissa. That was awesome. You've been doing a great job in Fairfax. You know, a lot of that glass is going back up and being processed and turned into furnace-ready cullet. And from the container glass industry, we'd love to see more programs as successful. So keep up the good work. All right, we'll move on to our next speaker, Sarah Leslie O'Shea. She's the Deputy Director at the Pennsylvania Resources Council, some of you know it as PRC. She spent nearly 2 decades leading environmental education projects, managing electronics, tire, glass recycling, and household hazardous waste programs. During this time, she's overseen more than 70 collection services, servicing over 35,000 people, and recycling over 3 million pounds of material. She now leads PRC's operations and program staff as Deputy Director and currently serves as a proxy on the Professional Recycling of PA Board and is a certified recycling professional. Sarah, over to you.
Okay, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, and can you see the slides?
Yes.
Okay, great. Just checking. All right, thanks everybody. Well, that was a really interesting presentation from Melissa. I'm sure PRC might be in touch to just learn a little bit from you, because some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about in the work that PRC does in Pennsylvania is a similar municipal drop-off program. So just to let you know who PRC is, we are an environmental nonprofit. We're statewide. We have been around since 1939, but have definitely kind of evolved in the years since then. We did billboards, anti-litter, but into the 70s, really got involved in recycling, was kind of heavily involved in the state's Act 101 in 1988, which was the act that mandated recycling in the state of Pennsylvania. And today, we're focused on not just recycling, but reduction and diversion as well, and just some images from some of the programs we do, collection events, zero waste events, education, all that good stuff. And this is our vision, a vision of a Pennsylvania where nothing's wasted in our mission. So just to explain a little bit about our glass program, why I know everybody here pretty much has a good understanding of why. When I look at the images, the top image you see is from one of the processors we work at there. That's the MRF glass that they're receiving from MRFs in Western PA. That was part of the issue as to why pushing source separated glass in our region. At this time, they're stating that about, if you looked at that pile or what they're getting from that pile is about 50% glass. They would love it to be 70% from the MRF right now. It's at 50%. So that's one of the reasons. Another reason is there are a small number of haulers in Pennsylvania who are actually utilizing their glass for alternative daily cover. So they're actually collecting it curbside in the recycling stream, but instead of recycling it, they are taking it and utilizing it on their landfills for cover, which is a kind of a difficult obstacle sometimes for us to educate and explain to residents that process. And so just a part of trying to push, why, what's the value, why should we be doing it? Sometimes that can be a tricky one when folks are seeing their, material being collected in the curbside, but it's not actually in the end getting recycled, which can be difficult. So the last thing is another reason why to recycle. In Pennsylvania, the State Department of Environmental Protection offers what's called recycling performance grants. Those are dollars based on tons that municipalities can receive. So the more weight they recycle of the Act 101 materials, the more dollars they get back. And so this has been helpful for us to try and bridge that cost of having a source separated bin in your municipality, is that's also going to increase dollars that you're going to get back from the state DEP at the end of the year, have you, choose to do those recycling performance grants. So for PRC, why did we get so kind of involved in glass? Back in 2019, Waste Management pulled glass from the curbside contracts that they were already in existence on. We got tons of calls from people saying, I have no way to recycle glass. What am I going to do? PRC, our office that I work out of, is present in the city of Pittsburgh, which is in Allegheny County. That county is home to over 130 municipalities. Most municipalities have their own waste contract. There's not really a centralized collection point for source separated. And so kind of figuring out, okay, how do we provide access when service is pretty fragmented? What we wanted to do is bring back the model of source separated glass. And our vision was a regional glass drop off, but we kind of had to start somewhere, and we started with event-based collections, which through that picture you might see were a little bit crazy. They were one day, 4 to 6 hours. People come, drop your stuff off. In 2019, we had over 27 events. I think we averaged about 7 tons per event. And one event in December brought us about 30 tons in 5 hours. Obviously, this was not, the answer long term. This was, not efficient for staffing, not efficient for cost, and then only providing a window of, 4 or 5 hours for somebody to recycle their glass was not convenient. And what ended up happening was the onset of COVID actually helped us push into a new system that we've been using and still use, which was the traveling glass bin. Obviously, due to COVID, we couldn't have these people-heavy events, tons of people coming in one, span of time. So we pushed the idea of, okay, we have these bins. If municipalities want to, quote unquote, rent them for a week, that, they can bring it. It'll be a week-long collection. Their residents can drop off all different types of, bottles, jugs, and jars. And it was pretty turnkey. So, they worked with PRC. We set up the hauling. We did remote monitor the bins through cameras so that we could see when it was full and if it would need switched out. Again, it was week long. Hauling was done on Fridays, and then collection for the residents was Saturday through Thursdays. So it was a pretty simple system. You know, pretty much the first three kind of mentioned before, container delivery and pickup on Friday. We've worked in Southwestern and we continue to work closely with Michael Brothers Hauling and Recycling. PRC does not own trucks. We are not a hauling company. We've partnered with them. They own 2 waste transfer stations in the county, and they were able to put up consolidation points at both of those transfer stations, which really allowed us to make, you know, this whole system a lot more efficient. And there are some lovely PRC staff members next to the bunker at Michael Brothers. The bunkers usually are about 20 tons of glass. So therefore it would be, you know, a handful of bins full, those blue bins that we're using full, before CAP would come and collect it, who is our processor. Much like Melissa showed, we do education, social websites, webinars, mailers, handouts, kind of just, you know, across the board, trying to get the message out as much as possible and trying to get it out to as many people, which, you know, PRC is an environmental nonprofit. We have a following of folks who are like-minded and want to recycle and want to do highest and best use recycling. And the biggest issue for us is how do we get outside that bubble? You know, how do we get to the day-to-day folks to get them to want to utilize these services? And so it's just to continue and keeping it in front of everybody's face pretty much and pushing it as much as we can. So we went from the traveling glass bin, and pretty much that paved the way to permanent collection sites. I think what helped with the traveling glass bins for the municipalities was there's some concern around, you know, would there be contamination in the bins? Would there be, you know, people dumping things outside of the bin? And what folks saw is that the traveling glass bins were unmanned and they were fine. We didn't have that issue. And so that was comfortable with them to move into a system that, you know, instead of doing it once a week, we're going to offer this for our residents, you know, all year long. And we were able to get dollars through the State Department of Environmental Protection to purchase containers to add to the fleet in order to expand, which was excellent. I did not steal the map from Melissa when she put up hers with the purple ones. I was like, oh, it's exactly the same. So this is just in Southwestern PA where our permanent sites are, and then where we have traveling glass bins. We work closely with Allegheny County. They utilize the traveling glass bin in their county parks. So every year they kind of circle them around the county, spending a week in each park, and it allows them to provide different, you know, constituents access to this bin in case their municipality is not. And then today we're up to 15 permanent bins. We did 20 traveling glass bins last year, continuing to do that and more this year. Very excited to receive the state's Governor's Award for Environmental Excellence, which was exciting to just see that it's being noticed and folks are taking, you know, they're finding out about the importance of glass recycling and they're finding a big value to it. So this is our very untechnical map of where the glass gets traveled from. Obviously, we have our sites. We have expanded into the Philly, outside of Philly area just last year, mostly in Delaware, Montgomery County at this point. Thankfully, Cap Glass, who is our processor, has sites on both sides of the state. So the glass is collected in the bins. It eventually makes its way to Cap. And a lot of it ends up going to OI in Pennsylvania, turning bottle to bottle glass. So it kind of makes it's a great, trying to push that message to that, especially in Pennsylvania, we're very unique that we have the processors, we have the industry, all in the same state, and in Western PA, even all in the same region. And so, you know, trying to express and, you know, make the folks aware of that is just one of the big things we're trying to push. So some of the equipment we utilize, 25-yard roll-off, gable top, just scale and scope. 2019, we started with 1 container, and then through DEP funding, through Cap Glass funding, through corporate funding, and then through recent funding through the Glass Recycling Foundation, we're able to get 2 new containers for this year. And just some of the players kind of involved in all of the steps that I talked about, us, not as surprising. The local regional haulers, Michael Brothers is the Southwest, Tri-State has been our Southeast partner. These folks are essential. Again, PRC does not do hauling. We've been lucky to find partners who are willing and interested to take this on as part of their business model, and see it as a value add. CAP has been a huge both sponsor and supporter. Again, they're the glass processor. They have locations on both sides of the state, which has really allowed us to push expansion. And then municipalities and counties, have been key. If they don't want it or they don't see the value in the service, then it makes it a lot more difficult for us to do our job. And then a little bit of a shout out, Bob, not necessarily, but OI has been a great sponsor of PRC to enable us to expand the work. And we've been able to, knowing that a lot of the glass that we are collecting is heading to their facilities. And in some situations, it's getting returned into Yingling or other bottles that are used back in the state of Pennsylvania. So these are just some of the ways we paid for. How do we do it? Mentioned corporate sponsorship and capital equipment provided by Cap Glass. Pennsylvania, it's called a 902, but it's the DEP, Department of Environmental Protection's recycling grant. We did receive funding this year to add containers through the Glass Recycling Foundation, and then municipal fees. So there is a fee for folks to have the bin. They cover the hauling cost. So, the bins, the education is all wrapped into one fee. That just helps us sustain, that program. And then corporate sponsorships, including things from Owens, Illinois, and from others. So getting towards the end here, our next steps of things that we're looking to do in Southeast, we're piloting a summer-long pilot in Haverford, which is in Delaware County. The bins for that we're receiving, that we're getting this year, are going to be added to that Southeastern fleet. We have developed a partnership with Delaware County Solid Waste Authority. They are going to be providing us a consolidation point in Delaware County for glass. This is going to be a huge benefit to the Southeastern program. Instead of glass having to be hauled from collection point 60 miles to Allentown, it's now going to be able to be hauled less than 20 miles to this consolidation point. So that's going to make for just efficiencies all around. We're working with some other counties to install some permanent collection systems in 2025. And we are doing a bin, kind of like the bags that Melissa was showing. We are doing a small scale bin distribution for folks in Mercer and Lawrence County this year. They have a series of the traveling glass bins. So actually, I think next week, we're going to be up there distributing the schedules for the bin, for the glass containers, for the drop-offs, and then folks can get a bin to hopefully kind of push that. And then the last two things is just really trying to increase the usage on the containers that are already in existence, figuring out and really how we push the education on currently, the difference between single stream and source separated, as well as educating those municipalities whose haulers are utilizing their glass for ADC. We do have some municipalities who do have a hauler that the glass is not getting recycled, and they actually both have a curbside collection contract, and now they have a source separated bin to be able to provide that to their residents. The last thing I'm going to do is show you only a minute. I'm not going to show you the whole video because it's long, but this is a video that PRC created to just show the benefit of the program in Southwestern PA. And I think it just is a great way to finish off. So again, it's only going to be a minute, so I'm not going to make you sit through anything too long.
Our focus was RN residents. Again, this was going to be regional.
All right, so I'll stop there. We don't need to go on, and I don't want to, hopefully that's very exciting. That's not putting anybody to sleep, but I can share the link for the full video if anybody's interested.
I was gonna
The other
say, I
thing I
don't think
wanted-
the sound came through, or it didn't.
Oh no! I'm so sorry. Somebody should have shouted out.
The link would be helpful.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Well, I will share the link if somebody wants to watch it. Sorry you had to watch a silent video then for a minute. The last thing I just want to touch on is PRC is obviously, we're not the only ones in the state of Pennsylvania. It's a huge state, and there's a lot of other entities working towards collecting glass. Just giving them a little bit of a shout out. City of Harrisburg, Adams County, Bottle Underground, Bayfront Glass. They're doing a lot of work to really just continue to add to these systems in Southwest and across the state of PA. So that's all. Again, sorry about the silent video, but thanks for letting me talk. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Sarah.
Now I
Appreciate
figure
it.
out how to stop sharing. There we go.
Appreciate the information. Again, I think it marries up very well with what Melissa presented. Just for everybody's benefit, PRC program collected is on pace to collect about 1,000 tons this year. I think in 2018 the program had really not even been started, so there's ability to increase more glass collection, but just want to give everybody an idea of how much glass was collected. I guess the last thing I'll say, which I think is interesting, is that if you go to the PRC website and you actually look at the sites, they actually can see how much glass was collected at each site, so they can understand where there might be additional opportunities to move a bin that might be underutilized, or vice versa, if they need to do some things to either grow a bin or do something different. Thanks again, Sarah. We're going to move on to our next speaker. We've had a last-minute substitution. So General Honeywell from the city of Little Rock is planning on joining us. Had a scheduling conflict. In his stead, we've got Lenny Massinelli. Hopefully I didn't put your name on anything bad. She's the sustainability officer in Little Rock today, and she's going to talk a little bit about the reintroduction of curbside glass recycling in Little Rock. So over to you, Lenny.
Thanks, Robert. Can everyone hear me? Every virtual meeting format is different.
You sound good.
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. Yeah, thanks for the invite. I found out this morning, so I apologize for the brevity maybe of this, but I'm going to try and hit a few important points. And of course, I'll provide some contact info for follow-up. So I'm Lenny Massinelli out of the city of Little Rock. I serve as the sustainability officer. I'm housed in public works, and the sustainability office is 2 people. So there's myself, and then there's the recycling and sustainability program educator. And so let's go forward. Go ahead. So just to give you like a quick sense of the history of recycling in Little Rock, it's kind of started in the early 90s when the city of Little Rock became part of the Pulaski County Regional Solid Waste Management District. And then in 1995, the city entered into a curbside recycling agreement with Waste Management of Arkansas. And that's where you see that brochure in the middle with our then mayor sort of encouraging people to become familiar with this new recycling program, residential recycling program. What goes in the tub that you see there, it was a tub at the time. And then also separating all of the fibers, paper fibers from your aluminum cans and bottles and plastic jugs and that. So there was a little bit of separation going on in the early days. And then I believe it was somewhere in the 2000, before, I think it was around 2005. I'm not certain, but we moved to carts. And I see my friend Courtney Little from Ace Glass here, who may have a better idea of when we moved to our recycling carts. So that's what it looked like in the 90s. Go ahead. interesting. I didn't know that this was an animated slide. So I'll put this slide in because I wanted to just emphasize how much Little Rock residents care about recycling of all materials. Our office gets calls every single day about how to do it correctly, where to take even some very obscure items. And those obscure items have a place too, but not in the curbside bin. So it's exciting that our community cares so much about recycling and doing it well. In fact, our MRF manager says he can always tell when a truck pulls in and dumps out on the floor that it's Little Rock's day, because the recycling stream is so clean. Not perfect, but it's cleaner than other places that bring in. So let's see, it was so my topic, is about glass being reintroduced. At one time, glass was part of our stream, and then I believe it was 2019 maybe that it was taken out of the contract. And I've been with the city since October of 2019. So during the time that I've been in this position, we have really rallied our residents to do recycling of glass in other ways. And for one, we've got a green station. Again, this is with partnership with the district. But Little Rock has a green station that has everything from electronic recycling, plastic bags, household hazardous waste, and then also the glass, one-stop shop to drop that off. And then last year, well, back up to November of 2022, our green station closed for relocation. And so during the entire year of 2023, people were sorely missing the green station and all of the recycling opportunities there. So that's when we actually partnered with Ace Glass as one of our vendors for a Little Rock Recycles Day. And that was something the Sustainability Office, along with Keep Little Rock Beautiful and the Little Rock Zoo, collaborated and had different vendors there to collect different kinds of recycling 4 times last year, which was hugely successful. We had everything from shred to glass to electronic waste to Goodwill there for housewares. We collected plastic film and even bicycles, an organization that collects and refurbishes bicycles. So really big deal. Go ahead. And the green station reopening in February of this year. So when it relocated in February this year, it was again a really big deal. Lots of interest, a lot of phone calls, lots of press. Again, just to emphasize how much Little Rock residents care about recycling. Go ahead. And these are some numbers of our complete, 4 2023 Little Rock Recycles days. You can see how much glass was collected during those 4 events. Go ahead. So we at the end of March this year, we had a recycling contract extension, and where glass was not part of that contract. And the reason for that a few years back was there were a few city directors, again, guided by their constituents who deeply care about recycling and doing it correctly, that those city directors felt like it was not, they weren't very confident with the level of collection at the MRF for glass, and afraid that there was a lot of residue, and this was something that they did not feel like they could get behind, and this was constituent driven, and so it was excluded from the contract. This year, I guess their constituents have really expressed that they want glass back in the single stream. There in the interim have been drop-off locations for glass. Again, these events to bring recycling to the zoo. And then also, and I'll get into this in a minute, WM will be installing some equipment that is going to really really clean up the process of recycling glass at the MRF. And go ahead to the next slide. I have a little more to show. Yeah, that gets into that. And you all know what those processes are. This is new information to me, just how well it processes glass. And so with that confidence level, our city directors then gave the green light for glass to go back in. And go ahead and show the next slide too. So this is the equipment going in that should be finished installing this year. And so that just sort of added a level of confidence to the residents, to the city directors, that a bigger percentage of glass would actually get recycled, and keep it local as well. Go ahead with the next one. So we have changed our graphic that we provide our education to residents on what goes in now, and we've added the glass bottles and jars. We've added, the other plastics that now can go in as well. Go ahead with the next slide. And these are, again, the interest level from everything from Girl Scouts to school kids to different organizations in Little Rock. It matters a lot to our residents, and recycling does, and the curiosity also for where not only to take glass but other materials has not waned. So it's good to see the community so involved in this particular type of waste stream. Go ahead with the next slide. And so with that renewed contract, the promise to do their part of the education, to get word out also. So that is the end of my slides. And again, sorry for the brevity of it, but it's exciting that with the equipment, with the confidence, and with the interest, we have a perfect environment for bringing glass back into our residential stream, into that contract. And the sustainability educator and myself have been getting lots of phone calls about the glass reintroduction to our stream, as well as when we go out and do different presentations. That is always what's coming up, and just an excitement about it, a curiosity about what kinds of things. So it's really opened up the possibilities for folks. And as well, I'd like to add that we really encourage in the sustainability office to our community for folks to use glass over plastic because of what we stated here, that it is infinitely recyclable. It's better for the environment. So we're big on plastic reduction and and focusing more on glass products if there's an option there. And with that, I will open up to questions, or Robert, go back to you.
Yeah, no, thanks, Lenny. Appreciate the update. Little Rock sounds like there's quite a bit going on, so it's exciting to hear some of the updates. We always like to hear from communities that are putting glass back into their curbside, as well as what that's going to do from the standpoint of MRF cleanup. How can we get that glass then back to a processing facility and turn it into something that can be used? So thanks again. I want to thank all of our panelists for their time today. We've got about 10 minutes, well, about 8 minutes. If anyone has some questions, you can either come off and mute, ask it yourself, or you can type it into the chat. And, I'll just kind of stop there for a minute and just see if there's any questions from you.
Yeah, hi, I have a question for Lenny. And I'm sorry if this was in your presentation, I missed it, but what was the volume of glass that you guys were seeing in your stream before you had to remove it? And is it expected to be increased or about the same when you reintroduce it?
Yeah, that is a great question, and I'm sorry that I don't know those numbers right now. I'm sure I could get them for you. As this is a brand new extension, so end of March is when we extended the contract. So there are some different statistics that I'm going to be curious about, as we already had one Little Rock Recycles Day event where we collected 1,600 pounds of glass, we being Ace Glass. But through that event, our next one is June 1st, which I'm curious, now that people can add glass back into their residential stream, what those numbers will be. But again, it is a one-stop shop sort of for all things recyclable. And there's the issue of the recycling contract the city has with WM is only for single family homes up to quadplexes. So if you live in a multi-family dwelling, then this is a great opportunity for these events for folks to bring their glass, as well as other recyclables and single stream. That I neglected to say, at these events we also have a dumpster there for single stream materials. But yes, I don't know, and I'm curious about how those numbers now are matched, when we had glass in the stream before, and happy to look into that for you if you'd like.
Awesome, thank you.
I've got a quick question, I guess, for both Sarah and Melissa. I mean, you've obviously made a big effort on getting these containers deployed out into the communities. What kind of next steps are you doing to try to drive more participation, right? Because that's always the challenge, is how do you figure out how to incentivize the resident to do something different, and they go out of their way. What are you seeing as things that you're targeting or going after next to try to drive that participation?
I personally would love to go after businesses more. We don't do a lot of engagement on the business sector to get them to source separate glass and then bring it to the container for recycling themselves. So that's probably our next tap businesses. A lot of wineries.
Let's see, you're breaking up. You can't hear me.
But turn off my video. Sorry about that. So like I was saying, the business sector is probably the next step for us and next industry to go after, especially all the wineries and breweries that we have up here in Northern Virginia, tackling them as our large producers of glass.
Thanks for that. Sarah, what do you think about for
a split twofold? I think it's going into region, because we're having a similar issue. So we mentioned that Waste Management removed it and some other folks removed it. Well, now they're putting it back in the curbside in some of the areas that we've already deployed source separated glass. And so our thought is that, yeah, we're looking probably through this year, those bins might have less of a number because there is going to be a percentage of people that are going to be returning to put it in their curbside versus bringing it to the bins. So both looking at expanding out to areas that, you know, either are currently collecting but are using it for alternative daily cover, or locations like the more rural counties that do not have the curbside or don't even have a collection of it, and trying to help by the like education with the bin distribution to hope to, it's like giving them that extra, like, here, if you have a container to put it in, almost like Melissa was doing, you were saying with the bags. And then secondarily, businesses, I think, is a big thing for us to figure out. We know that there's even some like sports teams in the region in Pittsburgh that have started to source separate glass. How do we maybe, instead of necessarily looking at smaller individual businesses, can we find concert venues, you know, larger, well, to your point, like the wineries, those entities, singular entities that are generating a good amount of glass as kind of a starting point.
Thanks, Sarah. Just for everybody's benefit, Pablo Sadler asked the question to Melissa. The 43% increase in glass collection that you shared in your presentation, was it from adding more permanent collection sites? Melissa's response was, it was from adding the glass recycling tote bag, bring products back to the appropriate bin. We do have another kind of longer question from Scott McGregor. We're probably gonna, in the interest of time, we'll try to tackle that one because there's a bunch of questions buried in there. We'll get back to you, kind of a response back to this good leadership committee to answer some of those questions that we have. But great question, and we'll definitely get back to that. And we'll share that with the rest of the participants on this call. Again, thanks to the four of you, Mike, Melissa, Sarah, and Lenny. Your time today, very interesting, very engaging. And I am going to turn it over to Lydia Gibson, who is going to give us a quick update on the MRF certification. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob, and thanks everyone for those great presentations. Very fun to hear different updates from across the country and great programs. So I'm going to give y'all an update on the activity of the MRF Certification Committee so far this year. Again, this is the group of members that are, some of us that are on the call and some industry professionals that are tasked with reviewing the applications of MRFs who are looking to certify the quality of their glass systems. And we were proud to meet a couple times this year and certify 2 new MRFs, Murphy Road Recycling, All-American MRF, and Eureka Recycling, our most recent addition to our list. So this program has really been an asset to the entire GRC organization in highlighting the importance of improvements across the glass quality stream. And it's super easy to get involved. So Sarah from RRS is a good primary contact. And we've got an application all set up that's super straightforward for interested MRFs to submit the application for the committee's review. Again, the whole application process for the folks on the committee is completely confidential, so you don't have to worry about any sort of bias going into the review of these applications. So if you've got, folks that are interested in the program, if y'all work with MRFs who you know are doing a really great job or making great improvements, like we talked about earlier today on the call, put us in touch with Sarah and RS and with us in the GRC. It can be super beneficial for negotiating those contracts that we talked about earlier. Mike alluded to the importance of discussing quality and highlighting quality in that process. And it's also a great group if you haven't had a whole lot of exposure to what the whole world of MRF glass looks like. I know for me, when I initially joined the committee, it was not my specialty, and I still won't claim that it is, but it gave me a great exposure to the world of what MRF glass really looks like. So I would encourage folks that even if you don't feel like you've got deep expertise here, you're welcome to join one of our meetings to learn more about what that process looks like. And it may spark in your mind a MRF that you work with or know about that you think could be interested. again, we rely on our members to get the word out and let these MRFs that are doing really good work get recognized. I know that Murphy Roads publicizing of their certification had some great traction across social media in the community. And it's a really great time for us to celebrate folks that are doing the right thing by glass. So keep reaching out to your contacts. We're hoping to get several more this year, and we review those applications as they come in. So the entire committee is on standby, waiting for y'all to bring us the next gold certified MRF. Any questions I can help answer on that?
Lydia, I don't have a question, but I want to kind of reinforce what you said. I didn't mention it during my presentation, but in all of our RFP interviews that we've done with the city, we highlight our MRF certification. And while it hasn't been awarded points because it's not a point awarding category in the RFP response, it has been told to us that it is a contributing factor as to why we have won. It's our commitment to recovery and commitment to quality. So this does go a long way to help with winning municipal RFPs, and it's extremely beneficial from our perspective.
Yeah, thanks for calling that out, Mike. Appreciate it. So looking forward to seeing y'all on the next call.
Thanks, Lydia. I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to Scott if he's still on to give the GRF update.
I am on. Thank you so much, and it's been great to listen in. Sorry I was a little bit late joining, but I had to call that I couldn't escape at the beginning of this. So the Glass Recycling Foundation, our work here, the GRF, we're partners and work a lot with GRC. The Technical Advisory Committee helps inform the grants that the GRF makes. We are, I think, our third year in existence in giving out grants. Several of the folks that have presented have gotten some sort of grant support from the GRF, and we have well, this is a slide that we put out that generally shows the overall issue, but this is from our most recent impact report. In 2023, the GRF grants were over $150,000 for 11 projects. We've gotten some additional $142,000 in donations, and another partnership with the bar, which is a Diageo program, where consumers who buy things in their electronic marketplace, every purchase that comes through there creates a donation to a charitable partner, and the bar chose the GRF as their charitable partner this past year. So sometime soon, maybe I think the third quarter, we'll get a report from them about what the sales were, and then a donation from that program coming in. Projects have been completed from previous years. The GRF is a foundation, like a reimbursement grant. So the expenses come up and receipts come back in. We set aside the money in order to make sure that it's there when the projects are finished and submitting receipts. And we appreciate the funders, Anheuser-Busch Foundation, Diageo, Corona, Constellation Brands, and the Wine and Spirits Wholesalers. Over the course of the past 3 years, there's been over a dozen contributors to the GRF, and more is coming in this year. I believe that and I know that the bags in Fairfax were a GRF donation. I think PRC's gotten them as well. And so that's what most recently the GRF impact report for 2023. We do try to keep tracking the tons from the prior year projects. But most importantly, next week, we will open up the 2024 grant application for the GRF, May 29th. Everything is available at the website, the glassrecyclingfoundation.org. We will be putting out media and media announcements about the availability. Infrastructure, education are the primary funding for the projects. Drop-off containers, bins, carts, creation of bunkers, which is really a separate stream application, not really for MRF or contaminated material, but for separate streams of cleaner glass. We really do want to reinforce that a nonprofit and or some sort of government entity alliance is preferable. As a charitable C3, you know, our lawyers frown upon it when we're just giving grants to private sector companies to create new markets like investments. But private sector companies can certainly be involved in the process and the grant, obviously providing the services through it, but we want that service to be endorsed by a public sector entity or a charitable foundation. So we will have a workshop, grant workshop taking place on May 23rd. Is that tomorrow? No. Thursday. Thursday, we'll have a grant workshop, and then the applications be open on the 29th. And I'm happy to take any questions. I don't see any hands raised. Sarah?
I do not see any hands raised either. And I think at this point, if there's anything that anyone wants to share from the members, any new programs or news or questions that you might have.
We don't cover a lot of policy here, but there will be a new EPR law in Minnesota soon that will increase recycling of all sorts, but glass in there as well. The Minnesota legislature's passed that this past week, and the governor is expected to sign that law. So Minnesota will become the 5th state that has EPR for packaging waste, and glass is included in that.
It's Becky from Rumpke. I have a quick question on the GRF grants. How long is the window open?
It's typically about 6 weeks, Becky.
Okay. And is there like a targeted dollar amount, like a min or a max?
Typically, go ahead, Scott.
Not really. I mean, I can go ahead. I mean, not really a minimum. I think the smallest one we've done that might be to the Fairfax City for the bags.
5,000.
The typical grant has increased from about 10 to 15,000, closer to 20,000, 15 to 20,000 in the past year as we've had more available. That's been kind of the target range. We have considered MRF equipment grants that have been more expensive. But really it needs to be something that just doesn't change the economics for the MRF unless it's also expanding and increasing the diversion and the additional incremental tons of glass that's going to be recovered, right?
So you don't want to spend $100 million on a new MRF, Scott?
The foundation would be not capable of funding a new MRF at $100 million. But when we also have the opportunity through the foundation to work on targeted partnerships that involve MRF equipment. That would be slightly more complicated, but we have mapped out a process where that could be done, and that's what we were considering in North Carolina 2 years ago. Ultimately, what we did in North Carolina is we worked with the state, North Carolina Department of Environment, on redividing which grants went where, and the state ended up doing the MRF investment, and the GRF did the investments in several of the more rural communities that needed, you know, drop-offs and bunkers, right? So there was a combined commitment and that was coordinated with the state of North Carolina. And one of the MRFs did get some new equipment there. But that was in our first 18 months of operation, so we didn't quite have enough money ready to give the Mecklenburg MRF for that project, but we worked diligently to work with them.
Yeah, and I think something that's worth mentioning when we talk about kind of min and max of grant amounts is it really comes down to impact. So one thing that the scoring committee looks at is kind of the dollar per ton ratio. So how much investment is the GRF going to do for the result of how many tons come out of that new or expanded program? So just something to keep in mind if y'all are interested or working with someone who's interested in applying for a GRF grant. That's a good way to kind of quantify what might be a reasonable ask. Anyone else have any questions? Scott, I don't know if you want to take on Scott McGregor's question from earlier, but
I would, let me go see if I can go back up to Scott McGregor's question from
is Scott still on? Yeah, he's still on.
earlier. Barriers for the glass industry from scaling up from a single similar collection program from MRFs and to glass manufacturers. I'm just reading through Scott's question. You know, I think my answer on this is going to be it's very particular to the state law as to how we can scale up different collection programs. I know Sarah would not necessarily say, and the GRC doesn't really do advocacy work on policy here. It's education. But when I have my other hats on, I do advocacy policy. You know, a really big barrier, I think you heard it from Sarah and Melissa, is the easy availability for, you know, some MRFs to take their glass to landfills as daily cover. Makes it really difficult to compete. And you're not competing. It's not even a commodity stream competition. It's a landfill competition. So, you know, in that particular case, you know, there are policy changes that are needed to, I don't know, disrupt the status quo, if you will, and create those opportunities. I think there's market opportunities in a lot of different areas. There are certainly some glass recycling deserts in this country, where there's not a lot of, you know, activity or processing within a 250-mile range of a large collection of where the glass is, and glass follows people because it's a primary package for food, beverage, and personal care products. So especially when we're talking about container glass, if we're talking about flat glass, which the GRC doesn't do as much work in flat or windshields or things like that, there's different supply chain markets. But I think, Scott, we could probably, if you want to have a conversation about a particular jurisdiction, we could probably scare up a plan to impact and grow glass recycling in that area.
Thanks. Appreciate the answer.
Sure.
Any other comments or questions, or members from the LC, anything that you want to add?
Should we talk about the fall?
Yeah,
and
we can talk
possibly
about
the in-person.
Yeah, and that is a good reminder that Morgan did pull the results from the poll into this slide. So they weren't just one-word answers. That was just the way that the whole software aggregates everything. So some good ideas for discussion topics for the fall meeting. So we're hoping to be in person in the fall. The last couple in-person meetings have been wildly successful, and we've got a lot of really good feedback from you all. And I know it's really important just for engagement and networking, and also not to have 5 million technological issues on a Zoom meeting. So we're looking forward to hopefully doing that again this fall. Scott, do you want to touch on what your plan is for your meeting? And we're hoping to piggyback onto the GPI meeting.
So the Glass Packaging Institute, we will be having our fall meeting in Lodi, California on Monday, September 30th, and then Tuesday and Wednesday, October 1st and 2nd. We will do our typical, right now our plan is to do our typical cadence of people coming in on Monday. I'll have a GPI board meeting Monday afternoon, an opening reception Monday evening, and then 2 days of programming. With, if the GRC is going to co-locate or piggyback, then I would defer most of the, I would do more marketing issues on Tuesday and more government affairs and recycling issues on Wednesday, October 2nd, so that people who want to come in for the GRC but don't need to be there for my board meeting or the marketing and advertising of glass parts, can come in on Tuesday and Wednesday to hook up to the tail end of the GPI policy discussions and recycling discussions before we transition over to the GRC Wednesday evening, October 2nd, Thursday, October 3rd, if that's what we're going to try to pair up with. So that's typically my fall cadence. Fly in Monday, Tuesday marketing, Wednesday policy and recycling, to allow some some transportation efficiencies for people who are flying in.
Thanks, Scott.
Sacramento, I think, is what we're looking at. For the GRC meeting, or somewhere in the Sacramento area.
Yeah, so hopefully we can get that tied up here pretty soon and get that save the date out to everyone. We just haven't gotten any contracts signed or anything like that. I know Sarah Barr, who's based out of that area and is on the LC, is working to coordinate a lot of that, but there's some good opportunity for tours and meeting space and whatnot. So hopefully you all are able to join us for that. And with that, anything else from anyone?
No, I just like to say thank you to Sarah and RRS for helping us organize this meeting today. Always appreciate the support, and they do a really nice job, and we couldn't do without you. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Lydia. Thanks so much to the LC for putting the agenda together and being awesome volunteers. So thank y'all for being on the call, and look forward to seeing everyone this fall.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.